Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another installment of Erin's Book Club. Today I have the great pleasure of reviewing Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Okay. The reason I have the great pleasure of reviewing this book is for my birthday. A very dear friend of mine, thank you very much, Pam, gave me this book because I want to start including more classics into my book library, and I am woefully short on classics. So here we go. Now, Gulliver's Travels, the only Gulliver's Travels that I knew of beforehand was the fact that he went to an island where there was a lot of little people and they tied him to the ground. That's all I knew. Little tiny people that tied him to the ground. The thing is, that's just the start of this book. You start with him to that island, and he goes through their society and explains how their society is, but he does it in such a way where he then compares to the society that he's living in at that day and time with the monarchy and that kind of thing. And the gist of it, he spends the entire book basically mocking what their society is, and everything he says has a little bit of humor to it if you can catch it. He's got this dry sense of humor that he's hidden throughout the book, like little tidbits throughout the book, because you get the little people that he goes to first, then he goes home to his wife for a few months, and then goes off and gets shipwrecked again, and then lands on an island with huge people, and he has to learn their language, and he learns how they govern their way of life, and how they train their children, and how their marriages are done, and compares it to what he was living in at the time. And then he goes home again and stays for a couple months, and then leaves his poor wife again, and this time he is shipwrecked on another island, and he finds a people who have created a floating island above with a bunch of rich folk, and then the poor folk down below, and they don't realize how very alike they are to each other, and they spend a great portion of their time creating inventions that just don't need to, like, they're wasting their time. And in such a emergency to do these experiments, the rest of their life is kind of gone to the wayside. Like, their farmland is all gone to ruin, but they've got people who are studying how to communicate with flashcards, and you'd have to carry these flashcards around because talking takes too much effort, and they'd be saving a lot more effort and breathing if they just communicated with flashcards. And it kind of mocked the way that our government runs our laws and creates our laws the same way. And then he really won me over because the last place that he visits after he's been not shipwrecked, but the company or boat that he was in mutinied, and they kind of deposited him on an island. This island was run by horses, and we all know how I feel about horses. And he makes the horses pretty much the pinnacle of what your life should be. This is where we really get to hear a mockery of what our lawyers are like, how they, like, say, if the example he used is, let's say my neighbor wanted my cow and said he ought to have my cow. What lawyers would then argue is, what breed of cow, what do you feed the cow, where does the cow go, instead of maybe this cow belongs to the rightful owner. Very well done that way. He saved his best work for this last chapter, in my view. And these horses that learn how to talk, and he can communicate with them, and then they keep things called yahoos, and these yahoos are like primitive humans. And in this last visit, he has come to admire the horses so much that he's actually started to detest his own race, to the point where he wouldn't let his own wife, when he did finally go back, be in the same room with him. He kept them on such a high pedestal. Even when he did come back, he bought 2 horses, kept them in his yard, and just kept them to talk to. Fascinating outlook, really very humorous with his satire of how things are run. I don't know how he didn't get in a lot of trouble writing this when he did. The downside of the book, and actually it ended up being a plus, but the downside of the book was I had to learn how to speak their language of the time, because we are always referred to as gracious leader, and show is spelled S-H-E-W, in meaning like I'm going to show you something. Um, and the language is definitely an old language, which is part of the reason why I like the classics so much. Um, the books nowadays are very wham bam, thank you ma'am, and similar plots, and not all of them, but the bulk of them. These books, the classics, really put some thought into it, and there was a love of the writing in these books, and that's what I miss. And this really proved that he really enjoyed doing what he did, and he put some effort into saying what he wanted to say, and really making a mockery of the royalty of the time. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was a lovely read. Once you got used to reading the language, it was a quick read. But again, thank you so much, Pam. This was one of the best presents I've ever had. And any of you out there that do like a good book, a good read, this is one you need to have in your library. And don't get the one that is meant for children. They really dumb it down. You want one that is written the way that Mr. Swift wanted this written. I can't say enough good things about this book, but yes. So Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, really good read. Go out there and buy it. Phenomenal read. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for your patience. I do sound a bit funny today because I'm recovering from a pretty nasty cold, but I wanted to get this out to you guys and get you guys reading this because this is an awesome book. Thanks so much, guys.